Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Hello, fans of the beautiful game. The beautiful game of talking all things technological, that is. Step right up, grab a seat and join the crowd. Welcome to the latest episode of Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Now, in today's episode, domestic robots are on the way, but the developers need your help. And if you don't mind, their research is going to be a little bit intrusive. We'll take a look at how you can influence the future of robotics, but it's going to come at a cost to you. Are you a drone fan? Have you ever unwittingly lost a drone in the water? Drones are great in the air, but absolute crap in the water though. Until now, water drones are a thing, and more on that later. Now, are the robots really coming for your jobs? We'll dig a little deeper with a story out of Detroit's General Motors plant. But all that in good time though. Before we take another step closer towards the meat and potatoes of this podcast, we're going to need to meet the head chef. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson.
If only I could cook. That's one of these skills I do not possess. Many skills I don't possess. That is one I definitely do not possess.
Make a mean omelette, though.
A good omelette and
yeah?
a bit of steak. That's about the limit
Right.
of my skills. And maybe boil a jug. I reckon I can make a cup of coffee as well. That's about it. So this week I always struggle with the concept of intelligence. Not whether I've got intelligence or not, but how you define intelligence. And we've kind of mentioned it briefly from time to time. And I think when you're at school, a lot of intelligence is just memory. You remember the facts that are presented, and then you have an exam that basically asks you to spit out those facts.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that memory should be the real level that we measure, or the real factor that we measure intelligence by.
I agree 100%. I got kids who can remember, recite the periodic table, and I don't think that's a useful thing, and I don't think it's a sign of intelligence. I think it's just good memory.
It is good memory, but if you go back a long time, that was probably a sign of so-and-so is the local expert because he remembers stuff, he knows stuff. There's not an internet to go and access. There's not a bunch of encyclopedias to go and access. It's just go and ask Billy down the road. He knows stuff because he can remember stuff. So that's possibly where that started from. But see, now we've got computers that can remember stuff. We don't need to remember exactly what the score was in the World Cup final in 1970 or whatever, because we can look it up in a few seconds.
Bingo.
And it'll be more accurate, and you'll get the background information as well. So then I start to wonder, is intelligence more about critical thinking or remembering the periodic table, but then applying the information?
That's the clue. That's applying, being able to apply what you can remember.
So another part of intelligence, I think, is curiosity. And I just love the idea of people that are curious. So they see something and they go, I wonder why, or I wonder how. Does that make sense?
But curiosity is a form of application, isn't it?
It is.
So it's thinking deep and critical thinking. It's thinking deeply about the thing that you're looking at to wonder deeper into it, and how can you apply what you understand to that, and then work out what you need to know to find out the rest.
And I think all of that relies on some knowledge. So you do have to remember some stuff, but you don't have to remember lots of stuff.
No. You just need to know where to go to look for the stuff.
That's right. And you probably don't need to know intricate levels of detail. So you don't need to know the exact number to 3 decimal places. You just need to know around about that number. And I remember a teacher many years ago saying that when calculators first came in schools, what that particular teacher was trying to stress to the students was when you punch in a few numbers on a calculator and you get an answer, just think about whether or not that's about the right order of magnitude. Because you can easily miss where a decimal point goes or add an extra zero in, and then you just write down that answer blindly, and it's too many swimming pools for some volume of water.
That's right. Yep, you got to know your SI units.
That's right. So what happened this week, which I sometimes get accused of being maybe painfully curious, and I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I'll take it as a compliment.
Someone's called you painfully curious. I think curiosity is a wonderful thing.
Well, this is what happened during this week. I was at a friend's place who just had some new solar panels and a battery put in, and were playing with their app where you could set up these various things. And something struck me. The process now with solar panels is that once upon a time you would only put them on the north-facing roof surface because you're generating the most amount of power out of the north-facing roof surface in the southern hemisphere. So you'd always put them on the north face. But now people are putting them on all four faces of their roof because the solar panels are so cheap, it's worthwhile. And I was looking at this particular person's installation, and they had some panels on the west, on the north, and on the south. And it was quite cool in that it had the strings. When you put solar panels on, the strings of panels should be roughly receiving the same amount of power. It's not quite accurate, but they kind of drop to the lowest power cell to produce the power. So you don't want to hook up west cells with your north cells, for example. You want all your north cells, all your south cells, all your west cells together, and that's kind of a standard thing in the industry. And I looked at this graph, which was pretty cool, that it had each of the strings that had been connected on its own graph. So it wasn't just the overall power production. And what struck me was that the graph for the north face looked very similar to the graph for the south face. Now, the first thing I thought was, well, that's ridiculous. We're in winter here in Australia, so the north face should be receiving much more power.
Much more, yeah.
But then they've got more panels on the south face. So I'm not an expert on how much you lose on the south face in winter, but there are about 40 panels on the south face and about 30 panels on the north face. And I went, does that make sense, or is that not quite right? And the graphs, the shape of the graphs was ever so slightly different. And so I said, just go and ask the installer whether this looks right, because I'm curious. And the curiosity part of it was, I wonder how much the south face loses as compared to the north face in the middle of winter. In the middle of summer, you're probably getting fairly similar, a bit more on the north face, but similar. But in winter, I thought it would have been dramatically different, even given the 40 versus 30 panels. So he went back to the installer and asked the question, and the installer came back almost protective of their business and said, no, that looks right. And I went, you know what? It just doesn't feel right.
That's the essence of the big discoveries.
Isn't it?
People going away and saying, thanks for your answer, but it just doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. I couldn't put my finger on it anyway. I said, go back and check again. Just ask him. You'll probably be the worst customer in the world to do this, but just go and ask a bit more. And so he quizzed a bit more, and I don't know that the installer really looked at the graph the first time around. Anyway, he came back and said, actually, there is a problem there. There's a problem with how we've connected the strings. We'll come around and fix it up for you next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they were actually missing out on production, and I haven't seen the final conclusion of this, but I suspect they'd hooked up some south and north panels in the one string.
Yeah.
Therefore, it was reducing the amount of production on the north face to almost match the south face, hence the similar graph. So I suppose from that, and I actually sent an email to my kids and said, kids, I know I get accused of being a bit of a pain sometimes, but just be curious. When you go through life, be curious.
Yeah.
Don't always accept an answer blindly because an expert gives it to you. Just make sure it makes sense. And sometimes people don't ask a question because they're in a group, for example, and everyone else looks like they're getting this. I won't ask the question because I'm a bit embarrassed. But ask the question, be embarrassed, because sometimes you'll ask a stupid question and everyone else goes, thank goodness you asked that, James, because I was thinking the same thing.
Yes, 100%. Now, tell me, so the outcome, has the work been done?
No. So the next week, the installer's going around. So in a week's time when we record again, I'll be able to have the exact answer as to what actually was the problem. But that's my guess, is that probably strings were connected together. But bottom line is, that's probably been missing out on 10 kilowatt hours a day of generation of electricity just by some little minor. And as far as everyone's concerned, the installer's done the job, signed off on it, everything's done. The customer's happy, he's getting electricity produced. It's winter, getting power produced, fantastic, it's all working. So everyone's convinced that everything's working properly. No one thought to actually say, is it the right amount, or let's just look at those graphs? So sometimes being curious and playing around is a waste of time.
Boring.
Yeah, that's right. No one. James, what's your method?
I'm just thinking about, so you go and check those graphs and there's no change. What do you do then? Well, I've got to get that curiosity stirred up again and dig deeper.
Well, hopefully they come along, they do it, and then the graphs jump up to what they should be.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want these to arrive at the point that you want them to be at.
Yeah.
But excellent. All right, we better get on with these stories for today. Now, few things evoke such a raw and unfettered display of emotion as being part of a crowd at live sport, particularly when it's an awesome game. Now, for the truly passionate fans, this is their chance to let go of the restraints of decorum and show the players, referees and coaching staff just how significant each second of gameplay is. And if there is an arena where this phenomenon is cranked up to 11 on the dial, it is the FIFA World Cup. Right now, the great coliseums of North America, adrenaline and endorphins are released in such enormous volumes that they ooze from the pores of hundreds and thousands of spectators to form the potent cloud that swirls about the cauldron. And that unbridled fervour has caught the interest of researchers at Bielefeld University in Germany, who are keen to get access to the spectators' biometric data, Matt.
Gee, that was a good enough intro to be before the World Cup final. That's getting me stirred up.
It's getting tongue-tied there. Anyway.
Yes, no, look, it's fascinating. And it's one of those things where you see a survey and you see data and you go, well, that was obvious. Do we really need to research that? Yeah. But the level, what level does this change things? So it's inviting everyone. So if you're a fan, a soccer fan, if you're watching on TV or you're watching in the stands, you can access or contact Bielefeld, B-I-E-L-E-F-E-L-D, Bielefeld University, and they're taking applications from people because they want as much data as possible. They'll accept data from 13 different major smartwatches. So basically they're trying to gather citizen science. We've talked about it before, using the citizens out there to gather the data. Now, interestingly enough, they did try this during the 2025 German Cup final. So not as many people watching that series as obviously the World Cup, but they wanted to test it out. And they managed to get 229 supporters over a 12-week period who said, yes, here's my access, here's my smartwatch data, you can have access to it. And what they found just in that small sample space, which is not probably big enough to say this is comprehensive across society, but it gives you a bit of a snapshot, is that someone attending the match in the stands, in the actual game live, their average heart rate for the game was 94 beats per minute. Now, that seems fairly elevated to me for just sitting there. Yeah, but the emotion. I
actually thought it would have been higher.
I suppose that's an average. So someone almost scores a goal and you're up out of your seat. Someone's just dribbling around in the back play. Well, it's probably not that exciting, but 94 to me seemed a bit of an increase. When they watched or when they got the data from people just watching it on TV, their average heart rate was 79 beats per minute.
Okay.
I would have liked, my curiosity would have said, okay, now tell me the resting heart rate of these people. Were they all really fit people, average heart rate of 50, so 79 was a big increase, or were they all obese, drinking soft drinks and eating chips on the couch and their average heart rate was 78? So that'd be interesting as there. I'm sure they've got that data as well. But the point was that the heart rate in the stand was definitely higher because you can't help but get stirred up with the emotion of the event.
Fantastic to be at live sport.
Yeah, that's right. So the other thing that I thought was fascinating was up to 14 hours before kickoff in a match that your team, the team you supported, was playing in, the stress levels of people increased for up to 14 hours. 14 hours before kickoff. So tomorrow, or maybe in the morning tonight, our team is playing and my stress levels start to just rise. I can imagine an hour before the game, but 14 hours. So this is what you suppose you get sometimes.
It's a real thing.
It is, absolutely right. And again, this is the bleeding obvious one. When a goal was scored, supporters inside the stadium experienced heart rates that went 36% higher.
Well, when you're jumping around, you're physically active, aren't you?
And it's hard not to get excited. Yeah. I went and watched a State of Origin game in Melbourne, which is a bit out of the realm of where State of Origin rugby league would normally be played, and it was a couple of weeks ago. And I went and watched that, and there were people there that I spoke to, AFL fans, but it was at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, so they would come along to whatever was being, if Tiddlywinks was being played there, they'd come along and watch whatever was being played in the middle. And someone said to me afterwards, didn't really understand what was happening for a bit of that game, but gee, it was exciting, wasn't it? So I think that's the thing, live sport, you're there in the stadium, you can't help it.
And win, lose or draw. Now, I've got to share with you a personal experience. In 2019, I went to the AFL Grand Final. So I shared a seat, space in a stadium with 100,000 other spectators, and my team got flogged, right? So, but being in that, I still recall that was still such an amazing experience because the team that won, their crowd, the noise was visceral. It would go through you, right? And you just feel it. And I wasn't angry. I wasn't disappointed or sad. I was just in the moment, and it was still so enjoyable to be there, even though my team wasn't doing so well at the time. But it was amazing experience. I'm going to have to go back now and track my heart rate. I'm going to jump on my computer after this and go and
Have a
see
look.
what was happening to my heart rate over the course of that 14 hours or so.
And I think when you see the excitement on the field, I mean, especially in soccer, because
Yeah.
it's only typically a couple of times that something like a goal is scored. In AFL, obviously, it happens a bit more often, but in soccer, it might be one, it might be no times during a match, but it might only be a couple of times during a match. So the players get so excited.
Yeah.
They're over the moon and running along and sliding on their knees and,
Yeah.
and absolutely so excited. It's hard to sit there and just go, oh, yeah, this is just
Yeah.
an afternoon.
Just let it wash over you.
That's
and
right. Yeah. So I think their excitement generates a bit more excitement in the stands, and you
does,
can't help
yeah.
it but you're there. So,
Yeah.
so do that. Guildford University, they're inviting people to give their details in. You identify what team you support, what country you're from, and the rest of it's anonymous. And then basically upload that data, which I think will be fascinating when they start to crunch all that. And hopefully they get not 229 people. Hopefully they get 10,000 people, 100,000 people,
thousands.
because that would be fascinating to look through that data.
Yeah. It's always been one of the real flaws in drone design. Now, we know drones are so adept and versatile in the air. They have grace, speed and agility. But just like the Wicked Witch of the West, a splash of water will render them powerless. If they so much as touch the water's surface, then the next stop is Davy Jones's locker. But some of the most awesome applications for drone tech are in capturing classic moments in water sports, and that is the most perilous application for drone operators. It's high time someone built a marine-friendly drone, Matt.
Well, it is high time, and there's the funny story when someone sits there on their boat, and I've seen this. I wonder whether it was an urban myth to begin with, but I actually found some examples where it happened. They sit there on their boat, and their drone takes off because they're out there on the water and they can see some wonderful footage out there. And of course, it gets to the point where they click their heels together and say there's no place like home, and the drone returns to home. Now, the person who is on the boat doesn't actually think about the fact that they've moved.
I heard about this. It happened to a guy on the Spirit of Tasmania, which is the ferry that runs from Victoria to Tasmania. And he was testing that out, and he watched this thing that was a kilometre or so sink to the water surface behind him. And he thought, oh, yeah, that's right.
I was over there when I took off. And so the drone's very good. It records the GPS coordinates where it took off.
It does a great job
and
of
it
that.
comes straight back to where it left. Now,
it's
luckily,
an expensive mistake to make.
That's right. Drone operators luckily now have dynamic return to home or controller location return to home. So they've gotten around that a little bit. But this drone has gotten around it a lot more than any of that. It's the first drone that I've been able to find that's water resistant. I never like saying waterproof because it would still be affected by water eventually. But it can land on water. It can take off on water. It can be splashed with water. It can land upside down or get turned upside down on water, and it's got a turtle flip that flips it back over so it can then take off again, because obviously you don't want the propeller spinning to drop it down into the water. So very impressive.
That would have been useful at that Vivid Festival in Sydney when
they
lost about 80 into the Sydney Harbour. Anyway,
go diving to the bottom of the harbour and pick those up. So this is called the Hover Air Aqua, and it is designed specifically for water sports, so they've had to make it waterproof and be able to land on water, etc. But it's got another cool feature. I've played with this. In fact, the first serious drone that I got, I wanted to use the Follow Me feature, and it would just track whatever you told it to track. So I actually got in my car. I was out at a friend's place on a farm, and I said, let's just try this out in the open where I'll make it follow my car and I'll just drive along and it will follow along behind. How cool will that be? And so I did that and went through a few trees, and they've got sensing technology to pick up any obstacles, so it would go around those. But unfortunately, and this is in the early days of drones, the sensing technology wasn't good enough to pick up a leaf. So it picked up the tree, moved around the tree as it was following my car, but then it just clipped a leaf, and that was enough to bring it tumbling to the ground. So that one lasted about 7 minutes until I had a crash drone. So, whoops. But they're getting much better. But this particular one goes a step further, and they've got a thing called a lighthouse, which is basically an armband controller. So you put the armband on, and it does two things. It's got controls on it, so take off, follow me. You can do different types of follow me, but it's tethering itself to the virtual tether to the armband itself. So it's not relying on what do you look like, what does the back of your head look like, how do you look on a surfboard, all that sort of thing. It's saying, I know that armband, I've got a tether, a certain distance tether to that armband, and then you can do things like just have a bird's eye view or follow along beside me, or sidetrack view, or just a straight follow view, follow along behind you. So if you're out mountain biking, I know it's designed for the water, but mountain biking, you want to follow along behind you, that type of thing. So it's got a range of options, and the armband looks pretty simple. I had a bit of a look at it, and it's just got a few buttons on there, and basically you say take off and then hit the button of what you want to do, and then off you go, jump on your surfboard, jump on your jet ski, whatever.
And you can change the view then.
You
so
can
you can have
change
it come and watch you from the
Correct.
side or above.
Yeah.
Or
And normally, if you did all of that, people would be very reluctant to do that. I would be anyway, because I'm out in the ocean or on the river, and I go, if something goes wrong, it's just going to end up in the water. The battery might go flat, and it ends up in the water, not through any mistake I've made. I won't do it. But this way, yeah, sure. If it lands in the water, again, hopefully it's not far enough out that you can't retrieve it, but it's just sitting there floating, waiting for you to come and pick it up or take off again. So it's funny that we took so long to do it. That's kind of the thing to me. It's like, it seems so obvious. Why haven't we done this a long time ago? We've got waterproof electronics or water resistant in a whole range of things.
Yeah.
Why do we take so long for a drone? But yeah, have a look at it. It's pretty cool. And I mean, it's got all the things you expect. It's got 4K camera, 100 frames per second. It's pretty lightweight, does about 20 minutes of flying. So it's all the things you'd expect in a drone, but that extra feature, which is pretty good. Which
You're
is water.
getting one, aren't you?
I'm not into my water sports enough, but I want to be now. So.
For a little while there at least, keyless entry gave us the upper hand against the car thieves. Even if they could force their way into your car with a crowbar, thieves weren't going anywhere without the right coded key to fire the ignition. Of course, if it was only going to be a matter of time before the criminals got tech savvy, and vehicle thefts are on the rise again as crims swap crowbars for computers. Sigh. So, Matt, is there anything the good guys have got up their sleeves? Anything to restore confidence in car security?
Well, maybe-ish coming
Maybe-ish?
soon.
Okay. All right.
So, look, I know how to break into a car. I've seen the movies. I walk up to it.
Yep.
I use my elbow, which apparently is very strong if I'm a criminal. I have a normal elbow, but if I'm a crim, I've got a titanium-plated elbow, and I just hit the car window with my elbow. That seems to smash the glass quite easily. And then I dive under, and manufacturers did a really good thing. They put lots of nice colour-coded wires under every car.
Yeah, that's
and so
right.
every crim, no matter their level of expertise, just goes, pull that wire, join them together and start it up, and away I go. And the police are nowhere near me, chasing me. So that seemed like a pretty easy way to break into a car and steal it, which was the go. And then someone came along and said, we've got to do a bit better than this. And we had various things in the 80s where we had central car locking. That was good. The key itself got introduced in 1910. The Cadillac was the first car to have a key. Before that, you just walked over, turned on the ignition, cranked it up on the front crank, and then jumped in. So you could do it. But I suppose before 1910, if you had a car and then it wasn't there, you go, it's funny, James, you haven't got a car anymore, but Mary down the road, she seems to have a car that looks a lot like yours. So they'd probably work it out pretty easily. So the Cadillac was a bit revolutionary there. They said, let's put an ignition key, and you've got to go and put in the ignition and turn the key and actually start the car. So over the years, we got better with ignition locks and steering locks on the actual ignition, and, as I said, central locking and a whole range of things. But what changed dramatically, and if we go back just in Australia, for example, the peak rate of theft in Australia was 2001, 145,000 vehicles were stolen in that year.
Wow.
There were only 12.8 million registered vehicles in Australia that year. So it was a fairly high percentage that you had a chance of getting a car stolen in 2001. Now, the Australian government did something very sensible, and they introduced Australian Design Rule ADR 82/00. And that was introduced in 2001, I assume on the back of all these car thefts being so high. And that said all new passenger vehicles that were going to be sold in this country had to be fitted with electronic engine immobilizers. And that was deactivated, as you said, with a chip in your key. So you put it in the ignition and turn it. Well, anyone could do that. They could break the lock or put some wires together. But unless the computer on board recognised the chip in your key, it went, nah, it doesn't look right. I'm not starting. And so the car wouldn't start. And thefts dropped, and they dropped quite quickly. Obviously, there were still cars on the road before that year. New cars were being sold. But by the time the pandemic rolled around, we had dropped down to 44,000.
Wow.
And we had now we've got 22 million registered vehicles in Australia. So we've basically almost doubled the number of vehicles, and it's gone from 145,000 down to 44,000. Great. But I hate saying this, James. This annoys me every time I've got to say this, but thieves are cleverer than we give them credit for.
It's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time. So as much as we go, look at that, we've got that problem solved, move on, let's do other cool things. Car manufacturer said that's pretty convenient, having a central locking key and having a key that you don't have to put in ignition anymore, having a push button. Let's make it even easier and let's just have keyless entry. How cool is that? Leave the key in your pocket, you walk up, you just grab the handle on the car door and open it up, everything works. How does that work? Well, your car, when it detects someone touching the handle, for example, or sometimes it might detect you nearby, when you do that, it sends out a signal. And it sends out a signal to say, hello, is my key there? And if your key is nearby, it responds, here I am. Now, it's got to be fairly close to that.
Yeah, right.
As we all know, if one of the kids goes to unlock the car, grab the handle and you're still 3 metres away, it doesn't unlock. It's got to be pretty close to it.
Yeah.
But the thieves have come up with a clever solution. They go near your house or near you. So you might be in a shop and your key is on your body. So I'm a thief and I walk up near you with a little key relay device. Then I have my friend, my other thief, out near your car with the device that will receive this relay. So I stand near you and I pick up the signal from your key. It then gets retransmitted much more powerfully to my friend who's standing near the car.
Yeah.
When he touches the car handle, it says, anyone there? Oh, I can read my key signal because it's been relayed from your key. I get in the car, and I'm not sure if you've ever done this, but I've driven away in my car and had the car key sitting back at home, and the car drives fine. It tells me a warning on the dash that it can't detect the key, but the car will keep driving. So it's not as if the car will get 20 metres away and then stop. It will keep, once you've started it, it says everything's been checked.
Yep.
Everything's okay. So what a clever way to get around it. They've even tried it in people's homes. If they just go in near the front door, for example, if someone has a key hanger near their front door, that's probably close enough they can relay from the front door to someone with their car out the front. So, how frustrating that we think we've got this problem solved and no, we haven't.
No.
So that's one thing. Now, what's the solution to that? A couple of solutions. Manufacturers are starting to use ultra wideband, which basically will give you the distance away, and when I'm talking about the distance away, to within metres. So it's clever enough from the timing, how long it takes to send the signal and come back, to know that that key, the original key, is either a metre away or 10 metres away.
Right.
So that's one thing the manufacturers are doing, but that's not every car today. What people are doing is starting to use Faraday pouches, so a little pouch that's designed to block the signal. So when you go home, you put in the Faraday pouch. When you get out of your car, you put in your little Faraday pouch. What a pain, but that's a way to thwart thieves. So that's one solution. That's something that, or two solutions, I suppose, one that you can take action with and one that manufacturers are taking action with. There are other things as well. We know Teslas, you can enable a PIN. So when you get in your car, it can say, sorry, I don't know who you are. I think you're okay, but just put your PIN in before you start driving. You punch your PIN in and then you can drive away. I haven't done that on my Tesla, but maybe after this story, I should. Because I did wonder about mobile phones as well, because Teslas use phones. And the latest revision of the Tesla hardware, which uses your phone, actually is clever enough to use ultra-wideband and not be tricked into relaying. But the earlier models of Teslas absolutely could be relayed in just the same way, because the phone is effectively your key. So it's doing exactly the same thing with your phone as it is with what someone might do with a normal key. So
it was so much easier when the crooks were as dumb as those two on Home Alone. You know?
on TV shows, crooks are always dumb. Like, why can't we have them like that in real life? Well, I thought you were going to say it's much easier back before 1910 when you just got in your Model T and cranked it up and no one stole it. So that was nice.
I'm going to get a horse and a cart.
The other thing, just to make you a bit more concerned, is modern cars have got an onboard diagnostic port, an OBD port. And I've seen various ads for people to say, buy this tool, it'll read all the diagnostics of your car. When you go to a mechanic for a service, they will plug into your OBD port and it does give you a bunch of information about the car. So they can say, oh, it looks like your oil's a bit low, or we need to do this. Whatever it might be you need to do to the car is recorded in that like a log. but the OBD port accesses the electronics on your car. So other clever thieves that still have their metal-plated elbows still smash the window on the car, but then they plug in a device to the OBD port, which takes control of the electronics, and then they drive it away as if it was theirs. Thank you very much. And these OBD port hackers in the Thieves network are quite easy to get. I haven't been able to get one yet, but they're quite easy to get. In fact, the cloning devices, the relay devices, Victorian Police last year alone, this is one state in this country, seized 1,100 of the relay devices in Victoria in 1 year. So obviously someone is manufacturing these and saying, here you go, Thieves Network. I don't know how you get on this Thieves Network, but here you go, Thieves Network. Then go for it. You can buy these and just start stealing cars.
I'm just thinking that thieves are becoming so sophisticated, it may be worthwhile backtracking, going back to the old key start car, the ones that have got to be hotwired. No one's going to remember how to hotwire a car.
That's right.
So just go back to that old school, and they're going to break in and go, right, now I've just got to...
How do I drive this? Well, someone did say, I did read a report where someone said, look, if you just drive a manual car, thieves can't drive. No one can drive a manual car. So if you do that, they'll get in and they'll go, what's this stick here? What's this third pedal on the floor? I don't know what I'm doing.
Or they'll
here.
be the ones with the getaway doing the bunny hopping down the road.
That's right.
You go, they've stolen that car.
That's out of the movies. That's what happened in there. So the problem is, of course, our cars are really modern computers.
Yeah.
And at some point they became computers. It's not just EVs, it's all cars became computers. And then every computer is a cybersecurity risk, and that's kind of what we've got here. They're not using physical means to break in anymore. They're using just some really clever electronics.
In the digital age, so many of us have ditched traditional media to gather our news. In the past, journalists could be held accountable. There was at least some degree of comfort that we were being fed. Well, what we were being fed was held some sort of truth. There was some degree of integrity from the people supplying the information. We now live in an age where news is passed to us by influencers. I groan. These people need no qualification, no reliable understanding, and certainly no accountability if necessary. All that's needed is a phone, an opinion, and some lip filler. There's a shift away from education and expertise, and I despair for that. I wonder what counts for more than facts. Sorry, what counts is likes more than facts. So when TikTok creators decided that sunscreen is bad and passed that on to their followers, basic health precautions have been shelved, doctors are dumbfounded, and things take a turn for the worse, Matt.
So I'm gathering from that intro that the only reason we do a non-visual medium, a podcast rather than videos, is we don't have lip fillers. If we had lip fillers, we'd be right.
This is right, yeah. Yeah.
It's the only thing. The only reason we don't do this as a video is because of our
But can I assure our listeners that there's been some research done here, and it's quality research. It's not endorsed by any companies.
Well, the funny part is that I remember when we were kids and we'd go out and you'd had a great day if you'd been playing cricket all day or you'd been down at the local swimming pool and you came home red raw, you know you had a great day. You get in the cold shower and it'd be freezing cold, but that really hurts. And the next day you'd be, or not the next day, a few days later, you'd be blistering.
Skin peeling.
Oh, yeah. But you remember that day? Oh, we had a great day on Saturday, didn't we? That was fantastic out in the sun all day. Now, myself included and friends of mine have getting various bits that are burnt off and cut off our faces and backs of hands and all the rest of it because of all that skin exposure, because we didn't know any better. In fact, my big sisters used to do the coconut oil and lay out in the backyard.
Make sure they were well and truly fried.
It was like basting a chook and putting it out in the sun. So absolutely, we've learnt from that. We think we've got lots more information now, and we know that sunscreen is the most effective way to prevent skin cancers. But unfortunately, some influencers see it a little bit differently. Now, some researchers have done some work here, and it would have been interesting work, but they found 971, interesting number, but 971 highly viewed TikTok videos that were related to sunscreen. So they went looking for specifically sunscreen and influencing sunscreen. Now, across these, they'd accumulated about 8.7 billion views. So they were popular ones. And most of them, about 86%, still were promoting sunscreen usage, but not sunscreen usage on its own. It was more about how you make your skin look younger, how you stop your skin from aging, skincare benefits. Oh, by the way, it helps prevent skin cancer, but it was more about protection of the skin. Whatever, as long as people are getting the message to put some sort of sunscreen on, fantastic. But the really fascinating part of that is that 6% of these videos contained health-related criticism. 1.5%, so not many of these videos, claimed sunscreen ingredients caused long-term health. It would cause cancer, in fact, not protect you from cancer. They block your vitamin D, all sorts of claims. But these were the ones, so this very small percentage of ones, these were the ones that were getting 4 times the shares, 3 times the comments, 5 times the number of views, twice the number of likes as the videos that had something that was a sensible message. And this is probably the social media algorithms. And if you've got some content that's a bit contrary to mainstream, you're onto something. Everyone else saying sunscreen is good for what I'm going to tell you. Don't tell anyone else, but here's the real secret. Here's the lowdown. And I think people get excited by that. But again, it's the social media algorithms that are doing that. So you've got people out there who are deliberately going out in the sun now to get enough vitamin D. I mean, I'm not going to go through a vitamin D lecture, but you get enough vitamin D out of a little bit of exposure and you don't need much each day. And the potential downside of not enough vitamin D compared to skin cancer, I'd rather go with a little bit less vitamin D. Thank you very much.
100%.
So it's all sorts of things, but some influencers are claiming that sunscreen's toxic, that it disrupts your hormones, that it blocks all this beneficial sun exposure. So get out there in the sun a bit more. The damage that they're doing is just incredible. But the point of this here is what happens with social media, what happens when people put out this information, and as you said, you don't need qualifications. You don't need to be even an expert on what you're saying. But the social media algorithms keep feeding this stuff. So when I start diving down that rabbit hole and look at something that says sunscreen's bad, I get more stuff about sunscreen's bad. So it keeps reaffirming, keeps confirming what I think already. And so then I'm absolutely convinced because I didn't just see one video, I saw 10 videos to say sunscreen's bad for me.
Well, my concern is we're seeing the death of expertise here. So people have got training and things that they've done, they've got qualifications, they've done lots of study, and other people are prepared to buy into this idea that, they're all subject to outside influences that are really negative, and so they've been through propaganda, they've picked up something that is evil, and they're distributing evil. So
that's right.
So
or big pharma, they're being paid by big pharma.
Yeah.
Right.
So the doctors and people who have done all this training, got a deeper understanding, their expertise becomes less valuable than some Mickey Mouse character that's come in from left wing and done a little bit of their own research.
Yeah, well, have they? Have they even done
they
a bit
haven't.
of research?
No.
That's the thing. And the one that really frustrates me no end is when you say, here's the research that shows that it reduces melanoma, reduces skin cancer, etc. And they go, well, look, they're entitled to their opinion, but I've got a different opinion. You go, no, this is an opinion.
Yeah.
We're not talking about do you like the colour red or blue.
No.
We're talking about hard scientific research that's being done to develop the best knowledge we've got today, which may be wrong in the future, but research and data and evidence will show that, not because you've got a different opinion. That doesn't help.
Well, the other classic is we never used to wear sunscreen, and now they're making us wear sunscreen. Look, people getting skin cancers and stuff. Well, yeah, we never used to wear sunscreen, but people used to die of skin cancers a lot more than what they did. Yeah, our life expectancy has increased as a result of our understanding.
And my father-in-law, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, my father-in-law's having a little bit cut off the top of his head and having some radiation at the moment. And if this was a visual medium, I have a photo right now of my father-in-law's head, which has got a little nice patch there that's been stitched in to replace the skin that was cut out, and some blisters where his radiation treatment's going on. Sure, he didn't wear sunscreen as a kid growing up. He was probably the same as me, running around playing cricket, whatever, getting burnt on the top of his head. And this is what happens now. He's getting 4 weeks of radiation treatment after a knife has attacked the top of his head. So that's what you've got to look forward to if you go, see, we didn't used to have sunscreen. Yeah. The scary part about this is that melanoma and other sun-related skin cancers are actually rising, not dramatically, but they're still going up. With all the information we've got now, I would have hoped that it was going down, not up, that it's still going up.
Well, it may still be a result and an echo from prior to the mid-'80s where slip, slop, slap became a thing.
Yeah, you're right.
And people like you and I paying for the sins of our past and your father-in-law. Yeah. So, it concerns me that people know a little bit of science, and that's enough to counteract all the other science that is, that goes towards the understanding.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens sometimes, isn't it? They'll take a little tiny bit. So yes, we need exposure to the sun for vitamin D. But you can get vitamin D in other ways, or you can just have a little bit of exposure to the sun with vitamin D. I'm no expert on this, but go and research it. But I reckon in the middle of summer, if you're outside and you've got about 5 minutes of sun, that'd probably be enough to get enough vitamin D for you to get through your day. And if you are worried about that, go and ask the doctor for a test. You can actually say, let me check my vitamin D levels because I'm putting sunscreen on. I want to know if that's really harming me. And I reckon most people would be okay.
Are you aware of what deficiency in vitamin D, what the condition is?
I don't know the name of it, but I know some of the effects.
Rickets. So it's the bow legs, so weakened bones in your legs. And so we don't see too many people walking around in Australia or in the Western society with rickets.
Well, I think when I read some of the other symptoms of vitamin D deficiency, I thought I've definitely got vitamin D deficiency because it's things like you've got weaker bones, you fall over more often, things that seem like when you get old, these things happen. So the things that you have as a result, but you've got to have really low vitamin D deficiency for a long period of time before things like rickets or low bone density, etc. So you've got some, I suppose, issues there that if someone said you can fall over a bit or have bits cut out of your head, I'll just fall over, thanks.
Well, we'll know when we've got a real problem, when there's a rickets epidemic.
That's right.
Right now, though, melanoma's making the headlines more often.
Right, much more than rickets.
Now, some of us have got a real philosophical objection to housework. It tends not to get me out of the housework, but gives me something to debate with myself in my head as I go about doing the jobs that I'm told to do. But given the right opportunity, I'll wangle my way out of cleaning and tidying with a promise that I'll get it done later, made in the same tone that you'd expect from a 15-year-old. So when I hear that an AI company is offering to do our domestic chores for us, that's it, I'm sold. All I have to do is allow them a free run to video through my house at their leisure. Video throughout my house at their leisure. That and live in New York too, Matt, I think. Is that right?
That's the only other problem. I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'd make sure anything personal, I just can't think of anything personal I've got sitting around the house.
Just going to stop wandering around in the nude.
Well, that's true. I'll do that as well. So,
speaking of that, Matt, can you put some clothes on?
Okay, sorry. I'll be back in a sec. So there is a New York-based company and they have got a vision. They know that we'll have home robots because I keep asking for them. So they know at some point in the near future we'll have home robots. And they know that they'll need to do some tasks that they aren't skilled or don't have knowledge on how to do. So they're offering in New York at the moment free apartment cleaning services. So they're advertising, and surprisingly enough, they're being inundated with requests to come and clean their apartment. All you've got to do is agree to the people that come in to clean to video what they're doing. And so they've got cap-mounted cameras and they're watching particularly their hands. So as they're cleaning dishes, the floor, the bench, whatever it might be, they're videoing their hands. And this company, it's called Shift, doesn't actually have any intention of ever building any home robots. But they believe the data on how to do the cleaning and how to do household chores will be invaluable. So they're collecting all this data. They're obviously paying employees to go into your house and clean the place for free for you. And all that data they're accumulating so that then they'll be able to say to some home robotics companies, you need some data about how to clean, how these robots should act.
They've been listening to our podcast, mate.
They have been.
They know that there is a market in this and it's going to have to happen.
That's right.
Rosie the robot will have to happen.
Absolutely right. And you would think that they could learn on the job once the robots go in there. But what would be better is that when the robot comes in on day one, they know how to do the dishes and clean the floor and vacuum and all the rest of the things that these people are training. So I don't know how long they'll do this for. If you're in New York, definitely go and reach out to the company. It's called Micro AGI is the company, and the whole initiative is called Shift. Sorry, the company's not called Shift, but this is all about collecting that data. Yes, you do have to basically allow them to video in your house, and some people will be a bit uncomfortable with that, but I don't see a thief looking around my house going, right, there's the place we've got to break into. You've still got to find the house. You've got to break in, all the rest of it. So it's fascinating. The other one that is being done, it's a kind of part of the same initiative, a different company though, is that they're doing something similar with mechanics. And so mechanics are being paid to wear a cap with a video camera, and then while they're working on a car, watching their hands very closely so that when they start to have mechanics being replaced by robots, again, they'll know how to grab that particular spanner, how to undo the sump plug, whatever it might be, because they've had these people trained from actual footage. So it is happening. And what will be the answer? How will it be that robots are going to do all these things? I'm not sure, but this is certainly one way that there'll be a pool of data that potentially will be used. So, yeah, quite a fascinating little initiative, and hopefully this company makes some money out of it down the track.
Interesting experiment. You're all probably familiar with the tragic fate of Pompeii and the merciless destruction caused by Mount Vesuvius way back in 79 AD. If not, watch some YouTube videos and get up to speed, please. But here's something I bet you didn't know. Archaeologists are still digging up remains and making new discoveries on the site, and they're still finding cool stuff from that fateful day. Anyway, as you'd expect, archaeologists now use AI, and what they're piecing together is really cool, Matt.
It is, and I think it's a really good way to teach a bit of history. And so we know that because Mount Vesuvius erupted and almost froze in time, Pompeii, we know as the archaeologists have digged through the remains, the ruins there, they've almost been able to see what that particular place looked like in 79 AD. So it's almost a snapshot frozen in time.
Yeah.
And they've actually made another discovery. I can't believe they're still making discoveries, but as the archaeologists are working away.
Do you know they've been working on it since, well, the first discovery was made in like the 1500s, late 1500s.
Wow.
Pompeii, so that's where they knew where the site was. And then they started archaeology on that site. I did the research in the mid-1700s, so about 1748.
And still discovering things now.
And they're still discovering stuff.
Yeah. I remember when we visited the pyramids a few years ago in Egypt, it was fascinating because we saw lots of little work sites going on with wheelbarrows and people by hand taking out parts. And you think, wow, are they still looking for things? But yeah, that'll probably be going hundreds of years as well. So
that's so interesting.
So the latest one they've discovered is the remains of 2 adult men outside Pompeii's Porta Stabia gate. And piecing together, attempting to flee towards the coast as the disaster unfolded. And so one of them was a bit older. So when I say older, probably at that period of time, maybe in his mid-20s, was probably older at the time. And he was killed by falling volcanic rock, but he had a terracotta pot or a sort of pan over his head. And again, the stories that were told at the time.
This is amazing that they know that much detail.
That's right. So trying to hold something over your head. But he'd also tried to take some of his actual belongings. So there was like a little candle lamp and there was an iron ring and 10 bronze coins on this person as they're running away. So you can imagine, oh my gosh, look what's happening over there. Quick, grab a few things and off you go. Most of us now would probably just say run, but no, they were grabbing a few belongings and then again trying to protect his head. The younger person was just, they basically found the skeleton there and just was running away. It wasn't really trying to protect himself with anything. But what they've done is they've now said, let's put together what we found from an archaeological perspective, put together all the data that we know, and then feed that to AI to say, give us some videos of this particular man. Show us the last 30 seconds of this man's life while he's sitting there and then looks up and says, oh my gosh, what's happening there? Grab my belongings and out I go. And the good part about this is I can go to AI and create a video right now that says, give me a man running away from a volcano.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be that accurate in terms of historically, and it's probably not going to be great. But when you're feeding in as much data as you can and then saying, now create a video for me, kids in the classroom saying, here's some information about Pompeii, Vesuvius, et cetera, kids are going to pay attention or maybe not so much. You show them a video and it creates some emotion. If you can imagine if you were that person in a room and you're looking up and going, oh my gosh, what's going on? Let's run away, grab some belongings, put this over my head, whatever. That creates a bit of emotion, and I think that will help the kids remember what's happening in terms of learning about that. Yeah, so I always try and find, it's sometimes tough, James, but I always try and find at least one good AI story because sometimes we think AI is the death of everything. Here's a good AI story where AI can be used to teach history, to teach events in history.
Piecing together bits of a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, I mean,
when the pieces are so small.
One that I would be fascinated to see would be a couple of nuclear bombs that were dropped in Japan. Imagine seeing an accurate AI recreation of some of that. That would be fascinating, but maybe a bit too
morbid.
Close to home and maybe too morbid,
becoming abundantly clear that it's a race for product developers to turn everyday items into smart items, and a lot of these things are channeled towards measuring biometrics. Now, consider that the sleep industry has evolved to become a massive economy in the second quarter of the 21st century, and it's developments like memory foam and smart mattresses that have drawn this enormous growth. Well, the latest gadget that you're going to need in your lives, maybe, is an AI mattress topper. Matt, is this extra data going to help us rest easy, or are we going to just be kept awake all night worrying about the data?
Maybe a bit of both.
So mattress toppers, smart mattress toppers.
This goes between your mattress and your sheets that you put over the bed.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit different again. And it seems to me that if I'm going to release a new product today, I have to have the words or the letters AI and maybe the word nano in there. So this one hasn't got the word nano in there, but it would
got smart there.
It's got smart. So smart, nano, AI, blah is a good product, because if you've got those three words in there, it's going to sell.
Yeah, right.
So this one's got 2 out of the 3, and maybe if I read enough of the details on it, maybe I would find nano in there somewhere. But the sleep economy is worth $900 billion a year worldwide.
Wow,
$900 billion a year. Now, the sleep economy, what is that? That's sleep aids, that's trackers, that's wellness technology, all these different things that we have to help us sleep, monitor our sleep, record our sleep, etc. 42% of Americans now use some type of wearable device to monitor or just do something related to their sleep. That's a lot, isn't it? 42% of people. So there's this obsession. People tell me they wake up in the morning, they check their phone, what was my sleep score? Well, don't you know how well you slept by how you wake up? If you wake up feeling pretty grumpy and tired,
exactly,
not so good.
Yeah,
you wake up going, oh, top of the morning to you, then it was pretty good sleep. But no, I need my sleep score. And I wonder what would happen if I woke up feeling fantastic and my sleep score was only 20. Oh, gee, I don't feel so good now.
Yeah, that's right. The data tells me I should feel terrible.
That's right. I better start feeling grumpier. So the 8 Sleep Pod is one of the latest systems. It's about $5,500. So most people don't pay that for their mattress. So this is more expensive. And there's no surprise it's got clients like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, for example. So people who've got too much money and trying to spend it on something, maybe that was what it was created for. So essentially, it's got accessories. You can add some accessories on. You can add about $3,000 worth of accessories if the $5.5 wasn't enough for you. So you can spend $8.5. So what it does is a few things. You've got to have a water reservoir beside the bed that hooks into this, because it circulates temperature-controlled water through the bed, and presumably it's heated or cooled outside the bed in a separate water reservoir. Right. Hopefully that's nice and quiet. But the cool part about that is that you can have different temperatures for you and someone laying beside you. So if you're someone, my wife sometimes wakes up saying it's pretty hot and I'm going, let me get back under the doona. So if you've got that sort of situation.
That's usually when you stick a leg out the side of it.
That's right. That's your cooling environment. How much leg do you stick out? Oh, it's about a half a leg today or tonight. So it controls the temperature on both sides. It'll do things like if you start to snore, it'll hear your snore and just raise a part of the bed up that you are sleeping down so that your head raises up to try and reduce that snoring, only on your side, of course, because your partner isn't necessarily snoring, but you may be. And then it's got piezoelectric sensors throughout the device to monitor things like your movement, your heart rate, and your sleep patterns. And, of course, the obligatory sleep fitness score that you get in the morning. I don't know if it projects it on the roof or what it might do, but it's got something. It's got, say, the whole temperature being adjusted. If you have things where it does feel that you're getting hot or cold, it will adjust the temperature rather than you wake up and have to stick the leg out the side. It tries to adjust as you go.
Wow.
It's almost as if they should do the Homer Simpson designing a car, where they just say to some kids, give me what you want in a mattress, because there's no limit now to what you can have in a mattress.
That's exactly right.
I'm just surprised there's no coffee maker built in, because surely when you wake up in the morning, having a coffee already made, ready for you from your mattress would be ideal.
Goodness me. Yeah, no, this is amazing. And to think that when I used to go to my grandmother's house way back in the late 70s, early 80s, we used to sleep on a horsehair mattress. How did we ever do it?
So did you wake up in the morning with a neigh or something? But look, who knows? I mean, I when I'm tired, I'll sleep on the floor. Like if I'm tired, I'll sleep wherever I am. So I don't need some of this. But maybe I should try some of these and see if it's better sleep.
The threat of robotics stealing our jobs has been looming for a while now, even well before the robots had been designed and built even. But It seems, at least for the folks at one car manufacturing plant in Detroit, that the fears were warranted, with over 1,000 workers shown the door as a team of shiny new droids hit the floor. They're called cobots, or collaborative robots, meaning that they will work together with humans, at least the ones who've still got a job. Matt, the Cobot concept seems like it's softening a sort of heavy blow, but it's a heavy blow nonetheless.
It's a heavy blow. The labour unions in America are very concerned about this. United Auto Workers, I think, is the main union. Mm-hmm. And they're very concerned because they think they are stealing jobs. And I think they're right. I think that's exactly what the manufacturer...
1,000 workers to argue that point.
That's right. So the thing is that ever since they started manufacturing, ever since not Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, ever since Henry Ford said, we need a production line with humans there, then the production line developed and got better and better, and they got more automated and they got more efficient, and various devices have been added. You may argue that the production line, the conveyor belt on a production line itself was automation, rather than before that someone was trying to build a car by bringing all the pieces to one spot and carrying them all to there, rather than the whole assembly line, which was revolutionary from Henry Ford. So there's been automation. Robots came along with welds, and I talk about it often. The robots were great in the first sort of robots where they said, we need a spot weld in those 10 places, and a human one sat there and did, I'll do those spot welds, and they got them right pretty much most of the time, and they were pretty good, and they were good welders.
Perhaps a little bit different each time,
maybe,
just by a small degree, yeah.
That's right. And maybe that Friday afternoon car, maybe he's not the one you wanted to buy because that particular welder was thinking about pub time, but a robot welder will do an identical weld in the right spot every single time over and over, but they're fairly limited. What we're talking about now with cobots, with collaborative robots, is starting to get a bit more confrontational or a bit more confronting, I suppose, for humans, because they're standing beside them doing the same sort of stuff the humans are doing. And the humans aren't that stupid. They're going, gee, that's doing what I'm doing and doesn't have a lunch break and seems to be doing it over and over repetitively in the right way. Do they need me much longer? And I think the answer is maybe not. So they're doing things now such as fitting body panels, which would have been one of those things that humans had to do because you've got to line it up and get everything right and just slide it in just so and then get the bolts put on the inside. But they're doing that sort of thing. Now, the car companies are arguing on one hand that it's safer because we're not having humans lift heavy parts, and it's safer for them to be able to just sit back and monitor some of these things rather than do it. But the reality is that labour hours to build a vehicle have fallen by 70% since 1980. So in 46 years, you've had a 70% reduction in labour hours. So from a labour perspective, that sounds terrible, but for me, going to buy a car at a cheaper price, that sounds fantastic. And it's not going to change. So we've talked about the Luddites and the whole process the Luddites had in destroying the machinery to stop the machinery taking over from the humans. Well, I think it's inevitable that people are going to find more efficient ways to do things. And if General Motors wants to be competitive, they've got to work out more competitive ways to do things, which may involve automation. The thing that I'm excited about is that in Australia, we don't have a manufacturing industry. There might be a minuscule percentage of our GDP generated from manufacturing, but really we don't, because we pay wages that are reasonable, able to be lived on wages. Yeah. Some countries, not mentioning any names here, don't pay those wages, so the manufacturing goes to those countries. Unfortunately, we buy the products that are manufactured in those countries, so we're kind of part of the problem. Yeah. But I see manufacturing or automation as being a bit of a saviour or a rejuvenation of manufacturing in Australia, because if we can get automation working, we've got the land space, we've got the raw materials. There's no reason we shouldn't be a manufacturer, except we pay too much in wages. Yeah. So automate some of this.
So no jobs will be stolen.
No, because we haven't got any.
The industry didn't exist to start with.
That's right. So General Motors, come to Australia. Bring your cobots to Australia. We're more than happy for you to do that, except there'll be a lot of shipping costs going back to America. Yeah. But look, it's fascinating where we're going with cobots. Maybe if they get that right, they can get that robot in my home fine. I'm happy to call it a cobot. It doesn't have to be a robot in my home. A cobot, it can be collaborative. It can do all the work and I can do nothing. So we can collaborate in that way.
Smart appliances in the kitchen have been around for a while now. You may even say that they're common, but busy parents will swear by them, just throw in the ingredients, hit the button, walk away and return with your 5-star evening meal ready to go when the buzzer chimes. Matt, the whole idea was to level the playing field and get the kitchen hacks a step or two closer to becoming Michelin chefs. now that these things are pretty common, how close is the idea to the reality, would you say?
Yeah, look, there's a fair bit out there, and will it make me a better cook? That's the crucial question here.
Can you claim credit for it if all you did was chuck in the ingredients? Not even chop them, you just chuck them in.
Yeah, but if it was my decision to make that thing, surely I can claim credit for
Good,
it.
okay, that'll do.
So there's a few different devices I want to talk about briefly. One's a Thermomix. I don't like talking about brands a lot, but these are very brand specific. And Thermomix came out with a product a number of years ago that did a lot of things in one. And I know my wife got one and swears by it. And it does some cool things where you'll read the menu and it will say on there to put in certain ingredients until it says the weight, like it's got a little screen on the front that says the weight is right. And now you can put the next ingredient so it weighs it. Then it'll chop it, then it'll heat it. So it's kind of like it does everything in one. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then there's an upgrade, which I'm not sure if this is politically correct, but I got my wife the new Thermomix as a birthday present. So I'm not sure if buying a kitchen utensil as a birthday present is acceptable in modern society.
I'd like it to be, but apparently it's not in our house either.
No. I'm not convinced it was.
I actually try to talk people into buying me kitchen appliances and things like that, just so we've got them.
Fair enough. So the new Thermomix we've got has got a lovely touch screen that you don't have to have a book with a menu. You have a subscription to a menu service, and then not only do you have to, in the old one, you just go, yep, I've now done that step because the weight's right, I'll go to the next step. You don't have to do that now. So what it will do for you is it will tell you when to put it in, and then it will do it, and it knows it's done it because it's automatically in the screen and it's got the menu in the screen. So then it says, you've done that step, now go and add this part and now go on.
Yeah.
So you've still got to add so I still participate. I added the stuff in.
Claiming credit.
Yeah, that's
My
right.
problem would be, I want the recipe. I can't remember the name of it, but it had the chicken and the mushrooms, and it was creamy and had a certain spice to it, but I can't tell you what the spice was. Can you bring up that recipe, please? I wonder if it could do that.
The answer would probably be yes. So I used the Thermomix to make tomato soup, which is a pretty simple thing to make, but the fact that it's all done on the one, so it mixes, it dices, it slices, it cooks, it heats, it measures. So as you're putting it in, it tells you that that's now hit the right weight. So stop now, and then away it goes. So it was a pretty simple process, and I'm no expert, but it tasted pretty good, I thought. So, so the other one I thought was pretty interesting, which I don't own, is a barbecue, the Broil King Regal Pro Barbecue, which does a whole bunch of stuff. So it's got 5 burners, it's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because everything goes better with Bluetooth, I assume. Electronic meat probes, automated temperature control, and gas bottle monitoring, which I think is essential. Gas bottle monitoring, fantastic. So with this one, and I watched a couple of videos of people using this, so you put the meat in that you want to cook, and you know the temperature inside, and you can check on your phone with the app to see what the temperature is and to see what, because of course when you check the meat, when you lift the lid, you're letting a bunch of heat out.
Yeah,
so
that's a problem. Keeping
the lid down and then checking how your meat's going, I thought that was a pretty cool concept. So that seems to be a pretty good one as far as that's concerned. And then the other one was air fryers. I haven't got an air fryer. Some people swear by their air fryers. I had a friend of mine whose stove broke down. They said it took about a month or so to get that stove replaced. And for that month, they lived off the air fryer. I went, really? Is that good enough? Yeah. Oh, I love the air fryer. Yeah. But there's a Philips XXL connected air fryer. Again, remote monitoring, smartphone control, letting you know on your phone when the cooking is finished. So no alarm on the device needed, no timer. Just your phone will say, okay, now your air fryer is ready to go. You've got that cooked, ready to eat. So we're getting better with some of them, but I just need the next step is the obvious connection from the fridge and the pantry to the cooker. So I don't have to put the ingredients in. I'd still claim it as me cooking it. But
what you're saying is you just want this vat that's in your kitchen and you just go to the shops, you buy the stuff and you just throw it all into that big vat or the tub and then it will open the packets and it will...
Who said anything about me going to the shop and buying it? Surely it'd be
so
delivered.
The truck will just pull up and just... Tip like a tip truck, dump into a receptacle in your garage,
That's right.
and then that will go off and it'll pack it. And
correct. That's all. In the meantime, maybe I need that robot to actually do the shopping and the purchasing and the slicing.
Sure, I saw a cartoon from the 60s that was about this. So yeah, living in the future. And that's all there is time for today, folks. The day is just too lovely to be stuck indoors in a room without windows, so we're busting out of here. Thanks for another cracking Tech Talk, Matt.
Well, I'm going to stay indoors because there's another soccer match coming on. Football, if you want to call that, the World Game. Yeah. But I've got to monitor what's happening with me, and I've also got to go and chuck my keys in a Faraday pouch just to make sure while I'm watching the soccer and getting excited about that.
No one's stealing your car.
That's right. No, I don't go
But
outside.
of course, it would require someone to be sitting in your lounge room just nearby you with one of these little relay devices, wouldn't
Well,
it?
it could be just outside my lounge room. I might notice them if they're hovering around with an electronic device just outside my lounge room window.
So that guy wearing the long trench coat and the peak cap
Might be a giveaway.
outside your window.
But what would stop
Ask him to move on.
What would stop someone from pretending to come around to check your water meter, which is all done electronically now, but someone might know that. I'm checking your water meter, sir. I'm checking your electricity meter.
Yeah.
So, like, people can get dressed up in different uniforms.
The wallet inspector.
The wallet inspector, that's right.
The Simpsons. All right. Thanks for tuning in again today, folks. Each shiny new Tech Talk episode has been polished with 13 coats of the finest shellacs, each delivered with nanofiber cloths to give a glossy finish that we guarantee will reflect the light from Alpha Centauri 4.2 light years away. I'm your host, James Eddy, signing off for another week. Matt and I hope to catch you again next week with another mint condition episode of our humble little podcast. Don't forget to tell all your friends about us because there is so much to share around. See you again next week.